You need a paper, Monty? You got one? Okay. We've been spending some time. You know, there are so many things that are going on in the life of our congregation. It's like this. God is getting ready to send us into a new level of how we actually manage the kingdom. It's like this. Y'all know we got the 40 days of prayer that are coming, okay? Then that right there is going to tip some things. But right now, God is doing some things to help tip us so that now we're poured out in a new way towards what the kingdom is seeking to do. And so tonight, I want to finish the last part of this first session. And we're going to spend some time discussing point 10 and 11 tonight. So I'm going to let Bishop talk to us. And what he's going to do is that he's going to talk to us about what do we do to get an understanding to address our times. Okay, then? There's 3 things that's already on your paper that he's going to ask us to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get it started, if you would. Okay, are we ready? Here we go.
Oh, am I making any sense today? No, everybody say, God, give me understanding of the times.
Understanding of the times.
All right, so how do you get that? I'm glad you asked. There are 3 ways. The first way is, and this is hard for us to do, acknowledge the times. You've heard me say over the years at Berean, there are some people who live in the state of Georgia, some people live in the state of Florida, some people live in the state of New York, some people live in the state of Alabama, and some people live in the state of denial. Ask a neighbor what state you from. Because a lot of the saints live in the state of denial. You will never serve your age unless you acknowledge the times. I want you to hear me. I've said this all over this country. I wish Bishop Fowler that I could have pastored in the 40s, 50s, and early 60s. Child, them thar were the golden days of black pastoring. Oh, child, the 50s, the 60s. Oh, Jesus. Those were the days to be a black pastor. Anything the pastor said, yes, sir. Us and pastor hear from God. They had the big cars. They drove cars so long they had to have hinges in the middle to turn the corner. Thank you, Clyde. Pastor's anniversary was a national holiday, second only to Easter. Those were the days. But I didn't get to live in those days. And if I am going to be an effective pastor or an effective business person or an effective school administrator or an effective department head or division leader, manager, super, whatever it is, I have to acknowledge the times in which we live. Let me rip a page out of work. Listen, you're the manager of a Starbucks. Listen. Let me tell you something. You better acknowledge these times. These are the times when they're putting out signs, work today, get paid today. Look at y'all, look at y'all. Now, I remember when I first worked, they put two weeks' pay in the hole. Everybody put nothing in the hole now. Give me my money at 5. Now, you can curse the darkness, you lazy, trifling folk. That ain't changing nothing. You have to acknowledge the times. If you're supervising people now, listen, they will file on you. No. They'll take up a grievance. They'll call, is it EEOC or whoever? Listen, no. And you push it real hard, they'll go on strike. Gone are the days folk were glad to have a job. Now you can go to work Monday with this attitude, but you need to know those times have changed. You a school teacher, child? When I was a boy, we went to school, we wore pants and shirts, sometimes a tie. We pledged allegiance to the flag. Come on. Ain't nobody pledging allegiance to the flag. And folk are wearing their pajamas to school. Oh, shoot, they wearing their pajamas in Walmart. I'll be like, you think that's all right? You a pastor? Baby, sugar pie, honey bunch. You know that I love you. But listen to me. Pastor ain't the same in 2023. A friend of mine had me rolling the other day. He said one of the mothers called him. Said, Pastor, I'll be watching online this Sunday. I ain't coming. He said, I didn't know the mother knew how to turn the computer on. He was offended. He said, bro, I didn't know mother even knew how to turn the computer on. She's like, Pastor, I won't be there Sunday. I'll watch you online. Listen, it was so funny. Back during the pandemic hit in March, right? February, you get a bunch of black preachers. I guess white preachers do it too. I don't know. I ain't never been white, but not one day in my life. Y'all know I couldn't pass, so I've been black all my life. I'm assuming white preachers may do, but black preachers, child, every Monday morning, black preachers, I pray black preachers don't die on Monday, because they going to hell if they do, because they be lying. How was it yesterday? Oh, Doc. Doc, it was the fallout of the theophany. Oh, Doc, they were in there 90 on a mule. I'll be praying, Lord, just let them live till 2. You gonna call them on a Tuesday. January, February 2020, everybody wanted to have 10 more people in church than their friend. Child, mid-2020, this is how fickle folk are. We were all bragging about how few folk we had. Child, it was just me and the praise team and the like. Child, ain't nothing. It's just me and the man running the camera. Ain't nothing. I ran the camera by myself. We done went from up here to down here. Now it's a badge of honor how few folk you got. It may be a generation before we see, I want to say it's to pastors, I want to calm you down, but I want to say it to church leaders because I don't want you beating up on your pastor. I'm talking to lay leaders, deacons, and trustees, associate ministers, ministry leaders. I don't want you, because you know how y'all get. Y'all get deep at the worst times. Y'all be sitting around talking, I don't know, you think he's still anointed? You think she's still the one? Child, the crowd ain't back yet. I don't know. You think she done lost something in the pandemic? Let me tell you something. Nobody's crowd is back yet. That was 17. I know how to count. That was 17 folk clapped. Ain't nobody's crowd back yet. I know everybody. I know the pastors of the largest churches in this country. I preach for them. I know them. I have preached for them since the pandemic. Their crowds ain't back. They've gone from 3 services to 1. And sometimes that one is not filled. You have to acknowledge the times. It will be a generation before our church is like it used to be, folk sitting up in church like dirty clothes in a hamper all on top of themselves. I don't think my generation will see it. Our sons and daughters may. We're not going to see it. Church has been open now for about 2 years. They haven't all come back yet. They haven't all come back yet. Some people found out they can worship Jesus at home. They ain't never coming back. Except for their funeral. And if they could figure out a way to do that online, they'd do that. Everybody say acknowledge the times. I want to free pastors up from feeling like you're a failure. And I want to free church leaders from holding your pastor to something he or she has no real control over. Everyone say acknowledge the times. Here's the next one, and this may be even harder than the first. Accept the times. Now, I do not mean by that, Mac, capitulate or surrender. But I do mean that there comes a place, a point, a period where you have to accept the reality as it is. As it is in the natural, so it is in the spiritual. All you have to do is look at yourself. And if you are over 45, you are being made to accept the reality of some things. Come on now, come on now, come on now. Come on now. We back to lying. Yeah, I'm as strong as I have been. You lying. No, you're not. No, you're not. I can. Pastor Chuck, I hit the ball as far as I ever hit it. No, you can't. No, you can't. I can play. I can play against them boys in my church. Better not. Better not. You better not. Either we'll come see you in the hospital or we'll be walking slow behind you as we take your hips to the cemetery. Famous last word. How many of y'all ever heard of or remember Bishop Benjamin Franklin Reed Sr.? Anybody remember Pot Reed? Pot Reed was the funniest guy in the world. So one day, he and I are sitting at lunch, and a pastor comes in. I think I've told some of y'all this story. Pastor comes in, and so I excuse myself because it's obvious that he wants to speak to Pop. So I say, well, I'm going to run to the restroom. And so I go, come back in, and the man's gone, and I say, oh, Papa, sir? He said, yeah, fine. He said, son? I said, yes, sir. He said, you know what that man just told me? I said, no, sir, what did he tell you? He said, that man just told me. He said, Ben, I'm 65. I didn't do anything I did at 35. He said, son, He said, you know what that man just did? I said, no, what did he do? He said, either he lied to me or he just confessed he didn't do nothing at 35. He said, I don't know which one it is. Either he just lied to me or he just confessed he didn't do nothing when he was 35. Because you cannot do at 65 what you did at 35. You have to acknowledge, but then you have to accept. Back to limitations and boundaries. Bishop Scott celebrated his 70th birthday last week. 70 years old. And so I was asked to give one of the tributes, and I said, now, we have new rules for Bishop Scott. He must go to bed by 9. He cannot eat after 8. He can only hoop on the first Sunday. And somebody said, I remember when he used to walk the pews. Oh, Marvin was talking about he was walking the pews. And I thought to myself, Scott having enough trouble walking on the sidewalk. He better stay off the back of them pews. Else we're going to come see him in the hospital, or we're going to be walking slow behind. My grandson said to me one time, he said, Grandpa, he said, everybody tell me at Wilson and Fair, you used to jump out the pulpit, walk the pews. I said, I sure did. He said, you ought to do that Sunday. I said, I am not. My goal when I preach is to make it from that chair to that pulpit and back to that chair as safely as I can. That's my only goal. From there to there and back. It's been a successful day. Because you have to accept your times. Yeah, we all wish we pastored in the glamour days of black pastoring. But we don't. We pastor in the gritty, grimy days of 2023. I'm going to teach on this tomorrow about what these times look like. There are phrases for them that I want you to write down. But you have to accept that. There's no need you getting bent out of shape, no need you getting upset. You have to do it. Well, here's the third, and then I'll open up for a few questions. I'll put it over here. You have to address the times. Now, let me be so bold as to say that you cannot in any way serve the age you're in unless you acknowledge the times. And in acknowledging them, Cheryl, it gives you the grace to accept them. I need you to hear what I'm saying. I think where we have trouble as leaders, corporate, educational, political, religious, spiritual faith leaders, is acknowledging these are different times. I may not like them, I certainly don't prefer them, but these are the times I live in. And I have to acknowledge that. Only in acknowledging that can I ever hope for God to grace me enough to accept it. Because unless I admit it, acknowledge it, give credence to it, I'll never accept it. And that's where a lot of your members are, where a lot of your workers are. They don't want to acknowledge the change, so they can't accept the changes. And watch this. It's only when I acknowledge the times, accept the times, that I am then, by the grace of God, able to address the times or speak into them. Are you in the room with me? It's only when I acknowledge them and accept them that I'm able to address them, that I'm able to speak into them, that I'm able to impact and influence them. And I'm going to talk about that tomorrow, so that I actually serve the present age as opposed to being held hostage by the present age. Because so many of us right now feel, now I want you to hear me, and I can only say this because I know, because I felt this way, as if somehow life has been unfair to us. Why did the pandemic have to happen under my watch? Some of you started your church in November, December of 2019. Some of you got called to your church in the middle of that mess. Listen to me. You haven't known a normal Sunday since you started pastoring. You ever known a normal Sunday? You ever known a normal Easter? You ever had the kind of Easters we used to have? You ever known it? And if you're not careful, bitterness and resentment can get in your heart towards God and his people and the place where you are. Some of you stepped out on faith, opened your business, bam! Everything shut down. And now you're questioning whether you heard God. Here's the worst part, whether God really speaks at all. Because you've been treading water, swimming upstream, trying to keep that dream alive. You went to school, got in all that debt to get that degree, and now you can't find a job in your field anyway. And you resent it, and you're mad about it. And in reality, if you told the truth, you kind of ticked off with God because you thought he'd do you better than this. And until you can do this and this, you'll never be able to address it. And here's what I'll say as I close, because I do want to open about 5 minutes for questions, and my daughter is a tough timekeeper. It may be that this will be your greatest opportunity. Wait a minute before you say amen. Because it will call and pull out of you a level of creativity you didn't know existed. This may be the very thing you as pastors need to make you think differently, to dream differently. It may be the very thing business owners need to revamp your business plan, to tweak it,